But that same darkness can be incredibly dangerous, a place where a journey of exploration can turn into a final, terrifying ordeal. Tonight, we're going to talk about the people who answered that call and the unbelievable price they sometimes paid.
And that's really the question, isn't it? It hangs over every single one of these stories. What happens when that thrill of finding something new runs up against an immovable rock or rising water? What is the real cost of our curiosity?
You know, we all have that primal fear somewhere inside us, the fear of being trapped in a tight space with no way out. It's a nightmare. But for some explorers, that abstract fear became a very, very real and final trap.
Let's go back to 1925. The entire country was completely captivated by the story of a man named Floyd Collins. He was an experienced caver exploring Sand Cave in Kentucky when a loose rock shifted and pinned his foot. By the fourth day, this wasn't just a local rescue, it was a national media circus. But as the days dragged on into an agonizing 2 weeks, every attempt to free him failed. On day 14, they had to make a tough call: start digging a whole new shaft. The country just held its breath, listening to every single update on the radio. But despite all that incredible effort, the story ends in tragedy. After 17 days, just beyond a grasp of his rescuers, Floyd Collins died from exposure. He became a kind of folk hero, but his story is this stark, brutal reminder that even the biggest, most determined human effort can be defeated by one piece of rock.
Now, not all the dangers in a cave are things you can see, like a falling rock. Some are completely invisible and are actually created by the person who's trapped. See, in a tight space with no airflow, the carbon dioxide you breathe out can build up to poisonous levels. Your own breath literally turns the air toxic. It's a condition called hypercapnia. And that invisible killer, hypercapnia, is what sealed the fate of Neil Moss back in 1959. He was a 20-year-old student who got jammed in a narrow shaft in England's Peak Cavern, about 1,000 feet in. Rescuers were trying desperately to get to him, but the CO2 from his own breathing was building up, turning the very air he needed to live into a poison. He eventually lost consciousness, and the rescue became impossible. And this leads to just an absolutely heartbreaking decision. Faced with the extreme danger of trying to retrieve his son's body from that toxic air, Neil's father made an unimaginable request: to leave him there. The cave became his final resting place. They sealed the shaft with concrete, and it's now known as the Moss Chamber in his honor. A permanent, solemn memorial to a life lost, and a reminder of the risks rescuers face too. Now, fast forward a few decades to 2009, where another tragedy unfolded with some really chilling similarities. This quote from one of the rescuers, Brandon Kowalis, just drops us right into those final desperate hours of the Nutty Putty Cave incident, a rescue that gripped a whole new generation. So what happened? John Edward Jones, a medical student and a dad, made a simple but absolutely fatal mistake. He thought he was going into a well-known passage, but instead he crawled head-first down an unmapped crack in the rock, a crevice just 10 inches wide. He got stuck, upside down. For 27 agonizing hours, more than 100 rescuers worked to set up this complex system of ropes and pulleys. And for a moment they had him. They managed to lift him, and then an anchor point failed. The rock couldn't hold. He fell back into the crevice, and the strain on his body was just too much. And just like Neil Moss, John's body couldn't be recovered. They had to seal the cave forever.
Of course, getting trapped by rock isn't the only danger down there. When you add water to those underground passages, well, that's a whole new level of peril. It combines that claustrophobia with the absolute urgent need for every single breath.
I mean, just look at this. It's stunning, right? It's like another world, so beautiful and serene. But that's the paradox of cave diving. There is absolutely zero margin for error here. Panic, a broken piece of equipment, a wrong turn, it doesn't just mean you're lost. It means you're actively running out of air in a place with no up.
And the reality of that risk can be just gruesome. In 2002, a diver was found in an underwater cave in Croatia. The scene was completely baffling. His mask was off, and he had a knife in his chest. At first, police thought it was a murder, but their final conclusion was way more disturbing. Facing the long, drawn-out agony of drowning alone in the dark, they believe the diver took his own life.
And tragically, that's not some isolated event. Water in caves is an unforgiving, recurring killer. Back in '67, a sudden storm flooded England's Mossdale Caves, and 6 experienced cavers deep inside were drowned. The Plura Cave system in Norway is so dangerous it's claimed multiple lives, including 2 Finnish divers on the very same trip in 2014. And the risk isn't just for people in the water. In 1995 at Cave Creek in New Zealand, a viewing platform built over a chasm collapsed, killing 14 people.
So, beyond getting trapped or drowning, there's another kind of terror, a more psychological one, the fear of being completely, utterly lost. In the pitch black of a cave with no landmarks, when your flashlight starts to dim, getting disoriented isn't just scary, it's a death sentence. This is exactly what happened to a man named Peter Verhorzel in 1984. He was exploring the famous Sterkfontein Caves in South Africa when he took a wrong turn and got separated from his friends. He didn't realize it, but he'd gone past a point of no return. He managed to find a dry chamber, a little bit of a safe haven in the crushing dark, but he was hopelessly trapped, with no idea how to get back.
The search for him went on for 6 long weeks. When they finally found his body, it was too late. He had died of starvation. But right there, next to him, he had left a final, heartbreaking note, a message of love for his family that he'd scrawled in the dark. In the absolute silence of the deep earth, his very last act was to connect with the world above.
You know, these stories are all so heartbreaking, each one a unique and personal tragedy. But when you start to look at them together, when you step back from the horror of each individual event, you begin to see these clear and frankly devastating patterns emerge.
Again and again, the story really comes down to one or more of these things. It's that simple human error, like mistaking one passage for another. It's underestimating the environment, thinking a cave is safe. It's the cave itself being completely unforgiving, a flash flood, a tight squeeze, foul air. It's equipment failing at the worst possible second. And woven through all of them is this idea of the point of no return. That moment, often when you don't even realize you're making the decision, to push just a little too far into the dark.
And that really leaves us with this final, massive question. As a species, we are driven to explore, right? To see what's in the shadows, to push the boundaries of our world. But these stories, these echoes from the underworld, they force us to ask a really tough question. When the price for discovery can be so final, so